Clap if you hear me.
Yeah, go ahead. Joyce.
Clap if you hear me. All right. You should only be here in April right now. Can we bring it down and start taking off?
Okay, this is the last panel, and to respect all my panelists, I'm not gonna say this is the best panel, but it's the best panel.
Phil.
You guys will have food after this and entertainment and mingle and all of that.
Work it out.
I don't know if I'm gonna keep going.
Oh, it don't matter. All right. So the title of this panel is Paving the Way. Honestly, I put together this panel because the panelists that you see up here has helped to develop me as an individual person, have contributed to Philly Voice. And I just want to thank each of them for playing such a critical role in who we are. Joyce's organizing skills and unwavering fire for parents and systematic change continues to inspire us. She's also Philly Voice's first organizational mentor for 2 years now. Yeah, she's been around with us for a while. Corey, in his pursuit of freedom and his sharp intellect and his ability to narrate history. Yeah, that's our new day Malcolm X. With power and purpose that always have a lasting impact. And Sarah, with her dedication to solidarity and deep internal work that she does, and your relentlessness to push for change in Philly, do not go unnoticed. Today, we are honored and we recognize and hope you recognize the seeds that you have planted in our organization. So with that being said, I know how much each one of these people mean to me, but I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves to our village.
I'll just keep it simple. Thanks for the invite, April. Corey Best, co-founder of Mining for Gold.
Joyce McMillan, founder of JMAC for Families and founder of Parent Legislative Action Network, better known as PLAN.
And Sarah Katz from Temple Law School, the director of the new Family Justice Clinic here at Temple Law.
So I think I'm actually just going to start it off and let's just dig in. And I start off with Corey. I'm going to ask you as a multi-part question of where are we? What patterns got us here? And what does that history mean for our path forward?
So I think it'll be important for me to have us all, if we could, just take a pause. We have been going almost nonstop with the exception of a few breaks. And just by show of hands, is anyone feeling a charge? I won't ask you from what, but a charge from anything you have heard today. All right, just raise your hand. All right, so I'm gonna count to 3. And why don't, Prudence, don't take a bite yet. Why don't we try to get embodied in some kind of rhythmic way? And it won't be a meditation or a drawn out thing, but we're also going to honor Malcolm X as we do this because his intellectual viciousness is a part of why we all sit here today. And I think it's just important, like if I count down to 3, can we just feel brave enough to just be like, right? Can we do that? Right? Practice it now. Like before I count down, practice it. All right, one more practice. Ah. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Y'all feel that? Yes. Right? Okay, so that hopefully got us back to center, because there's also an invitation here before I answer the question, and I know it's a multi-part question. Brings us back to center that there is something that we have to acknowledge almost all the time, and that is there is a charge that is complicated, complex, traumatic, and it is prolonged, and it is only a 4-letter word that brings this on. When I say race, you do something. When I say race, you in your body, it does something, right? Example for interaction here. This is a part of where we are. Raise your hand if the government categorized you as white. All right. And for anybody who's brave enough, just yell to me, what kind of world do you want to experience in 10 years? Just yell it out. 2 words, no more than. Liberation, white folk, white folk. White folk. Equity, liberation, freedom. What is it? See, this is the a microcosm of where we are. Like, this was intentional. So for freedom, Sarah, I won't ask you because you're on the panel. Freedom, who said equity? Oh, keep your hand up, please. Freedom. Was there another white body that said something? Justice. Okay. Can I ask a serious question? I don't know if you've thought about this before. What, in order to experience that world in 10 years, what are you willing to sacrifice and endure for freedom?
Unless, maybe getting arrested at some point, but just like, we got to do something different, something we haven't done before.
Okay, so getting locked up and being broke is his idea of freedom. Okay. Okay. Compassion. Or yes. What are you willing to give up, you yourself? Okay. All right. And so, April, to your question, it begins one with understanding that I can't answer that for this group. It depends on who you ask, and you're going to get a different answer based on where we are. But April, if you ask me, Corey, where I believe we are right now, I believe that we are mystified by what we call the American dream. I believe that we have a compact, economically, psychologically, emotionally, a compact with conquer and domination. I believe we have a compact with this dream and this idea that certain people belong at a certain tier. Now, when I take this and square up, April, I took a couple of notes, I stay in line. What's problematic, I have to look at it heads on. And it's multi-layered. So one part of it is this mystification by the American dream. The second part is that came from a conjured up imagination about who was dominant and who wasn't, and then that control. Also, the social processing of manufactured consent. Now, where does that lead us? Right, that is actually talking about before any one of us were race, before we were race. So then that leads into what we call, some of you call it enslavement today. I am going to push your thinking a little bit and say it is human appropriation, because you have to appropriate create humans to use them for something. Y'all following me? You follow me so far? Everybody who raised their hand, you too also have a story. Follow me. You too also have a story of the dominant ideology known as whiteness. And that story that you and your peoples have is a story of that dominant ideology and whiteness, not just as a category, but a belief system has also extracted from you. Pause. Anybody get what I'm saying yet? Yeah? Okay. You hear me? And the mechanisms that we have used to do that, one, to your people before, like people before they became white people, was torture, rape, and all kinds of violence. Those were the mechanisms, right? And so April, where we are today, is globally, there are some occurrences that have happened that have become patterns, right? And so with that pattern of torture, rape for light people who then became white people, that trauma got blown through other bodies known as indigenous bodies, known as African bodies, known as red and mongoloid and caucasoid bodies. So what happens from that point is we become conditioned. And that creates opportunities globally to answer one other question. What occurrences have happened globally that created mass advantages for those who became white while creating devastating disadvantages for all other bodies? You can answer that question, you'll know exactly why we are here today. I say that because I'm watching the world right now kind of act a little frantic, and I'm wondering, like, what's happening? What did I miss? Did something happen in the news that I didn't see? Was there a headline that happened overnight? Like, why am I not afraid like everybody else? What am I missing? What am I missing, people? And I said, well, damn. No one has really taken an honest appraisal of what has already happened in this country's history. That this guy that we call Donald Trump is a mere symptom of what has always been happening. And for those individuals, a part of where we are is hurt, a part of where we are is pain, a part of where we are is afraid. But for those individuals who stood shoulder by shoulder with me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I got my mind right, to call me up and say, I am devastated, I am hurt, I am disappointed, I'm flabbergasted, and I'm surprised that we allowed this to happen. I say, you know what, don't call me no more, because that shit hurts me. People have been telling us what was going to happen, but we just didn't believe it. The last thing I'm going to say, April, is that I can't really look at the world or the history in just a series of events to compare things to compare my progress to. I have to look at where we are as not episodic. Right. And I believe that a part of why I am not afraid of where we are is because I have prepared myself for these moments. And what I mean exactly to the path forward, I can't answer that either. Right. But for me, the path forward is to recognize smack dab in my face and confront it every single day that my conviction must be liberation, that the change that I know I'm yearning for in this world is not going to come through anybody's fucking institutions as it sits and designed today. What does that mean? The same thing. The reaction to that recognition is something that we all saw when we believed that this administration was dismantling the government. Instead of me going into my hidey space and looking out for my own contracts and my own money, what I have learned to do is to call fucking Aaron Cloud and say, let's have a fucking conversation, because I'm not willing to just lie down like that. They can have all of these contracts, but I need some glue. I need some glue. The glue don't come from the institution. The glue comes from people. The glue comes from here. The glue comes from there. We have to recognize that the path forward from this day forward is not going to come in between your 9 to 5. It's not going to come by systems change and transformation and parent partner programs. And I love you to death, but it ain't even gonna come from building new organizations if those new organizations aren't in alliances with one another. And if it's power that we looking for, I'm gonna pass the mic with this one. I ask you to second guess what power means for you, because if you're talking about power against military fucking machines, then you better be ready to pull some fucking triggers. Know what you're talking about. Language is very important. Do you want that level of power? Because if you do, then you are going to become the plunderers and the destroyers.
I'm just gonna let you sit with that for a second.
It's why he's our history narrator, right? And it wasn't by choice earlier when I, performed the poem. Today is the day that Malcolm X got assassinated.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much history in this day. The day that Rosa Parks was born, the day that Frederick Douglass was born. So it's history in today, and it's the same history we hold in our bodies. So I definitely appreciate what you said, brother. I want to pivot a little bit, just because I got some brilliant minds up here, and I want to cover some things, and I want to go with Joyce in the essence of community, right? A lot of times we say we're in community with one another, or we ask each other to be authentic in these spaces, or like you heard from the last panel, you ask people to show up and give, and some have people come to those spaces and just take from you without leaving anything. All right. So my question to Joyce is like, what is the actual essence of being in a community, and how do we embody that? Really, not the fake authentic way, like really in a truly authentic way with community.
First, I want to say, April, congratulations on today. It sounds like a simple question, but I think it's very complex. And it's complex for me because, with all honesty, I'm not in community with everyone. And sometimes people get annoyed because they're like, Joyce, we got to all come together. But there's a lot of people sitting in this room who's acting like they're my ally, and I know they're not. But why would I want to be in community? And I'm talking about the people who have the power, who claim to be my ally, but never listen to a goddamn thing I say. I had a white lady yesterday trying to tell me the best way to design or dismantle or free or provide equity to people who look like myself. And I'm like, Miss, what are you talking about? Like, you are so off base. You have not experienced anything, and you have not listened to anyone who has experienced it. What are you talking about? And so when I think about community, I have to think about who's aligned with not just my vision of where we will arrive, but also the process to get there. And while there's often more than one direction to a destination, I have to make sure the destination that the route you're taking will land me at the destination I tend to arrive at. And when I look at a lot of white people, I hate to call you guys out, but it is what it is. You just don't listen, and your direction is not working. The satellite has disconnected from your GPS. And so I just want to appeal to you to remember you have 2 ears for a reason. Stop talking about what's not your business. If you really care that I receive the things I want to receive as a Black woman and have the future for my family and my kids and my neighbors and my communities that I say I have not yet experienced, hear what it is I'm saying. Don't start telling me about some other nonsense, because I really don't care about your story. Your story has been rooted in privilege, undeserved privilege, not because you're smart, not because you're committed, not because you're honest, not because of anything that matters, simply because you're white. And so when I think about community, I'm getting ready to say something that's gonna really make everybody, even my own people, mad at me, right? It's just honestly something I've been thinking about, right? I haven't thought it through, but I have Black people calling me up going, Trump is going crazy, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm just not feeling what they're feeling. I'm like, he's fucking dismantling the system. Isn't that what we said we wanted? And so then they said, yeah, but he's also dismantling the Constitution. I was like, I can't speak for anyone else, but as a Black woman, the Constitution has never protected me. And they said, but how about the research? I said, maybe less Black bodies will go missing because they're not being paid to research on our corpse. So for everything they said, I said, it's impacting me differently than the way you're saying to me that I should care. I don't give a fuck about Trump. Take this shit apart. My job now is to figure out how we rebuild it in a way that communities have power. And so we've done that before. Not only did we build the country, but we also built Black Wall Street and Tulsa and other places that white people came and destroyed because you just don't want to see us have shit. And so when I think about Trump just knocking it down in one sweep, I understand people's pause to that. And I have very little pause because I'm just thinking about what he's trying to do after and what we could collectively do if white people start listening to us, using your resources, using your power, using your whiteness while you still have some left, because the middle class is about to fucking disappear. That privilege you thought you had is dwindling. He don't care about you either. And that's why there's such an uproar. Because for the first time, white people feel unstable. We've been unstable our entire lives. So when we talk about sharing power, now you know what it looks like to try to hold on to something that was never in your grip. For 4 years, I've been trying to pass Miranda for families in New York City. where it just simply does not provide any new rights. It just says that when CPS agents knock on someone's door, they have to advise them of the rights they have, their constitutional rights. For 4 years, our legislators have denied doing that. And they have entered more than 50,000 homes in New York City alone. We're not talking New York State, without court orders in 1 year's time. I had a parent last year who I went to court with, and Angela hate when I see, and she was there too. And the parent begged, but she was there. Okay, so we went to court with this parent, and she begged for an attorney during her TPR hearing, and they denied her, and her rights was terminated. And so there was an appeal done, and because she didn't have an attorney, they reversed the termination. So now the parent's back at the agency visiting with her child and all of those things. And the agency is telling me they don't want to give her unsupervised visits because they don't trust her, and that she had a history of calling in cases on the foster person and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't care about any of that, because we wouldn't even be here having this conversation had you done your due diligence and said, while we believe her rights should be terminated, which I don't agree for anyone, but that's their position. While we agree that her rights should be terminated, Your Honor, we cannot stand by idle. You got the CPS attorney in the court, you got the foster care agency in the court, and you got the attorney for the child in the court. And not one of them protected her rights. And you know what? They was all white. And now you bitching and moaning because you got to set up visits for this parent again who you think is undeserving. Had you done right by her, maybe you would have got the TPR and not be here today. But you chose to let people violate her rights. And that's what happens to people that some I can identify in this room. And so when I think about community, community starts with honesty, it starts with a vision, and it starts with knowing your place. Your place is not as a leader. We the leaders. Those of us who have experienced the harm are the leaders. Black and brown people who struggle to get out of communities to be told that we're not accepted in the one we can now afford to move to. I'm staying in my own community. I don't care what I make and what I don't make. And guess what? I'm not impressed by money because I don't flip for dollars. I flip for change. And I've been telling people for years, if foster care was a good thing, Black children would only get into affirmative action. But guess what? There's no more affirmative action. And now you're all gonna go. Your kids too. So with that, I'm gonna pass it back to April.
Thank you so much, Joyce. And Joyce is dead up because I had to walk up her steps when her elevator was broke. But so much of what both of you guys have said, and I'm just like sitting here reflecting, is part of the reason why, like, we decided to start our own shit. It's working within conglomerate nonprofits or within bureaucratic agencies and things like that. You're almost asked to also be a gatekeeper, right? Like, although you're serving the community or serving clients and things of that sort, but you can only help this person, right? And one of the biggest things that was like tearing my spirit up when it came down to like figuring out like, how do we really do this, right? And like, how do we bring in and build something that every aspect was created by people that was impacted, not by who the funder was, not by, you know, who had the most education at the top, right? One of the things we do often, like no titles, no one would know who you are outside of your April from the community, right? And it played such a huge part, like that piece of asking us as parents, which was the hardest thing for me, right? Have information to say, hey, I want to save you, right? When you have this person in front of you that need to be saved, and you have the information, you just can be like, just do this, right? Or let me support you in this way, or let me help you in this way. And you're kind of like, stop, right? Because you're under everyone else's rules or everyone else's policies and not really. And I think part of the reason why I pull so much from you guys, right, is that you have to create your own business in order for you to speak as openly and as powerful as you do, right? You have to create your own organization. Well, after the whole fire and shit in your billboards that said fuck ACS, right? You had to, at some point in time, step away and step outside of, right? In order to do those things. And one of the reasons, like, and Sarah, I'm coming to you. One of the reasons why, Sarah is on this panel is as things are like unfolding and people are going fuck crazy. They're like, how am I going to figure this out? What are we going to do? And when I say he has lent her privilege, not to tell me shit about what we gonna do with our organization, but has lent her privilege in a way of solidarity, right? It's not about what can I give to you, or what can I get a temple, or how can I, or how can Philly Voice help you with, your law clinic or things like that. Is no, what can I do for you, right? If we're saying that we want people impacted to lead the way, then you must stop people, like stop trying to stop us from leading the way, right? And that takes me to the question that I want to ask Sarah, because there is a huge difference right now when it comes down to solidarity, but it's a difference between what is an ally and what is a co-conspirator, right? And I want you to take that question and sit with it. Like, what is that difference between that ally and that co-conspirator? And how do you, continue to be in solidarity with our movement?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, April. And Joyce is going to make fun of me because I have notes, and she always makes fun of me for having notes. But there were some really important things that I wanted to say. Leading up to this panel, knowing that I was going to be on stage with such a powerful array of community leaders, I kept saying, as a white cisbodied, white-bodied cisgender woman who has not been directly harmed by the systems that we're talking about today, that my job was mostly to shut up and bolster these truth tellers. But I also have something important to say about solidarity, because it speaks directly to why I see this as my role. And I want to say it directly to the white-bodied people in the room, but also to all bodies who work within and around these systems and have access to the advantages of education, professional title, and/or resources. If we are serious about building community power, as has been discussed throughout today and on this panel, if we're serious about leveraging the family-led movement for abolition, then solidarity, and particularly cross-racial solidarity, is the only way forward. I aspire to be in solidarity, to be a co-conspirator, not an ally. And here's why. By definition, solidarity happens in community. It requires building critical connections with those most impacted by these systems, deeply listening and affirming their truths, and being willing to leverage our own advantages to bolster the power of their voices and their leadership. Just like the title of one of my favorite books I read this past year, solidarity is the political version of love. Solidarity is a verb. Solidarity is love. And as Bell Hooks wrote, love is an action, not a feeling. By definition, love happens in relationship, and it requires giving of yourself. Solidarity is not an exercise in figuring out how the truths that April and Corey and Joyce are speaking fit into my vision of systemic change and advocacy. Solidarity means taking their lead. And yes, conspiring with them on how we can best leverage our advantages, my advantages, to build their collective power and achieve their vision. Showing up in solidarity to me means showing up with humility and intentionality in relationship, but learning to be quiet, listen deeply, and to get out of the way, out of the limelight, off the stage, relinquishing power and control. It means letting go of the need to always be the expert in the room and not mistaking my own proximity for expertise. And to be clear, proximity, even for someone like me who's been practicing law in and around these systems for over 20 years, it's not the same as being in relationship. And solidarity also means speaking out when it helps leverage and build community power. For the white-bodied folks in the room, and for all bodies who occupy professional titles within and around these systems, particularly the law students and lawyers, this can be really hard for us. This is one of the ways in which white supremacy proves ingrained within each of us. As white-bodied people, we have been taught that our voices are the default. For white feminists, we've been taught to take up as much space as we need. As lawyers, we are taught to believe that we're the smartest, most capable people in the room. Solidarity, and particularly cross-racial solidarity, requires that we unlearn those lessons and relinquish those inclinations. It is on each of us to do the real and ongoing work to intentionally notice how we're showing up and be open to cracking open our own assumptions and beliefs. Be willing to accept, as Adrienne Marie Brown says, the loving corrections of those with whom we are in relationship when we misstep or miss the mark entirely. I don't aspire to be an ally because allyship happens alone. It's not done in community, and it can often be performative. If I sit over here and claim to be an ally, I haven't given up a single advantage. I'm not leveraging my own power and resources for anything. And it may be for some folks that allyship is all they can give. And maybe other folks will talk about that, but it's not my focus at this point. I aspire to be in solidarity and to level up as a co-conspirator. And I believe, April, that the partnership and collaboration that you and I have forged, not just personally, but with Philly Voice for Change and the new Family Justice Clinic here at Temple, exemplifies what that kind of solidarity might look like. As Corey is constantly reminding people, free people, and it feels good to be free.
My very quick response to that. Sarah very eloquently laid out the difference between an ally and a co-conspirator. I do not want all of the white people in this room who are not even allies begin calling themselves co-conspirators. Because y'all know how y'all co-op shit. Take the language, but never the action. Please don't do that. If you really believe in what it means to be a co-conspirator, be that.
Not take part of that, because I can't take that. I don't want to add to, but I just want to make sure it's similar to, I mean, kind of leaning toward Joyce's point, like language is important. So I just want to make sure I can give just a piece of context to a word that you used, and it's hyphenated, but cross-racial solidarity. So many of us know things, like we can spout dates and time and history, but I think it's important to know that when and before we became race, so the wound is race. We don't touch that wound, right? And so the process is racialization. So we have used and have been taught words like social construct, a social experiment, right? Let's abolish that language because it connotes that it's just a thing that's just been built. It's just there, right? Racialization is the process. And so before racial categories, the ideology of racism existed. Are y'all following what I'm saying? We needed the racial categories to prove a bogus theory. And so I say that because a part of the ideology of racism is and always has been to eradicate cross-racial solidarity, right? And so when you think about a budget as an example, like, so think about America as a business, right? You think about America as a business. So when you see some of us in high places, and when you see that even if you're two white folk that came from a rural area and you're a Harvard grad or you're making this amount of money, please know that that money is projected so that you keep this hierarchy going, because as we're the process of racialization, we're always being raced based on the bookends, white or black. Some of us are racialized closer to one and racialized closer to the other. So to keep that division there, right, it takes people obsessed with race, and that means white folk. It's not us who are obsessed with race. Y'all following me? Right? It takes white bodies to keep that in place so that what Sarah said doesn't exist. And then I'll just add a real funny part here, but it's true. Like, we're the two baskets, April. Yeah, I thought we were gonna like the pulpit. So you send the church basket around to see who's gonna put fucking skin in the game. That's what cross-racial solidarity is about. If she got money, believe me, I'm talking about not money for a payday loan. She ain't fucking Amscott. I'm talking about, do you know somebody because of your whiteness that you can leverage so that the revolution can be fucking funded? Because that's what I'm talking about. It gets there. Yes, it starts right here. It starts there. That's too small of a thinking. I don't need more friends, right? But all I'm saying is we can be friends, but at this level, it's replicated from friendship to solidarity to, okay, what's your bank account looking like? You ain't got none? Do you know somebody? Put the motherfucking money in the pot. That's what it is. Now, I'm gonna put the pot out there. Where your money at for April?
Silly voice. We got to pay for these programs. Yep, and we take, you can swipe, you can tap. You got cash, Zelle.
That's really important. I think that's really important because the impacted person, the person with lived experience, the person who has the true expertise, for many years has been tokenized. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of the first ones that wasn't gonna have that shit. That's why I had to start my own organization, because you're not gonna use my story to write a grant. Right? You're not gonna use my story to say, look how well I work with those Black people. You're not gonna use my story for any of that nonsense that does not build me and or my community. Right? And historically, that's what has happened. So, you know, the way Corey's presenting it, it may sound a little funny, but the truth is we invest in what we believe in. And this system that Mr. Trump is tearing down right now never believed in Black people. And that is why we have CAPTA that funds the separation of families. That is why we would take a child out of their home because the lights have been out for 2 months. Instead of paying $200 and put the lights back on, we create a lot of trauma throughout that entire family for generations and pay a gazillion dollars for the medication we put him on because he's stressed out, being separated from everyone and everything he knows and loves, because he has failed out of school, because they didn't change his location so many times, because he's developed mental health issues. And then we say they're a failure. They've been destroying and deconstructing and dismantling our families since we were brought here. So no, I don't care about Trump dismantling this government. But I do care that if you believe things should be different, today is an opportunity for you to invest in what we should really be building. April was here in Philly trying to build community. And Barack's campaign wasn't won on no big backers. It was the small people who sent him $5, $10, $15, and $20. And if you can buy a fucking Starbucks every day, I know damn well you can leave out of here leaving some money in her pocket. And that's just what's real. And I'm not saying that to put pressure on anybody. We're not in the black church, right? I'm telling you, yeah, because we know they like to collect money. Let's listen, it is what it is. It is what it is, but the Catholic Church is rich too, right? But we like to talk about the black church collecting money. So what I'm saying is everybody's getting their fair share, right? And everyone knows how it's done, especially people who are in this audience, because this audience is mostly comprised of professionals. And we know that you can't run a home, you can't run a business, you can't even run a car without money because you need gas. So be her gas today.
They're gonna make me tear up. It's so funny. I'm gonna go a little bit in the left field for just 1 second. Yolanda is the one that helps me with that, right? Because I'm the type of person that I'm just gonna give. And I'll be the brokest person, but my community has what they need. So I just really thank you guys for that, because it's y'all and my partner Yolanda and people like you that say, well, no, right? The community can give to itself, right? And we can figure this out and we can raise this instead of April. Like we did all of this off Yolanda and I, right? Out of pocket. You know, so I'm just grateful for that. I do wanna, because we only have 10 minutes left, and I just think this is just such an important piece, right? A lot of times as impacted people, and just as people in general that has had trauma, that's trying to change something, that's dealing with the backlash of trying to change something, that's dealing with other people's personalities while trying to change something. Like it's often we have to figure out how to navigate through the fight, right? While being exhausted, while still fighting. Like I remember, you know, Corey and I had a conversation about what does it mean to be trying to heal from your trauma while being re-traumatized at the same time, right? Like your wound is never closing, but we still have to continue to fight. So I'm going to pose that question to you guys, starting off with Corey, and this is the final question. We'll be able to mingle after this. How do we navigate and fight through fatigue while continuing to fight?
So I'm gonna come at this from a couple of different places, but I'm sure we get some different perspectives here. And a part of it for me, it may not be the genesis for the how, and I want to remove how we fight through fatigue and say where we begin to fight through or push through fatigue. And for me, it begins with my fundamental belief that liberation as a principled discipline and a way out of dependence on institutions must come first by no mental dependence on institutions. And so that's a hard concept to grasp. I'll say it in a simple way for you. I know from my own experience that I'm gonna be less tired when I know I'm going into my 9 to 5 to just get a fucking bag and not trying to change them. Y'all follow me? What I said there? Like I'm going there for a job. In conjunction with having a job where I have an oppressed identity and I'm also complicit, that's a conundrum, right? Then I realize I must have something to fortify my ability and build my capacity while I'm doing that fucked up job. And that's called for us in the movement a political home. And so when I have a political home, I'm getting cover, right? I'm getting cover from people who are unhinged from the system, who are liberated from the system, who are embodied, right? Who are honest, who are solid. And it's not about kumbaya. I'm talking about a place where I am anchored so that I can become learned. Part of what your poem said, lack of knowledge. And I think it's a book out there that says we'll perish, something like that. I don't know that book, but I know that fatigue has come for me through seduction. See, my dependence on institutions is really seductive, right? They'll wave pretty things in your face, whether it be a grant, whether it be a higher salary, whether it be using capital for parent partner programs and call it prevention, whatever it might be, it's coercive and it comes with threat. It's frightening to walk away and disassociate from a muscle that all of us have been taught to flex. And that muscle is this dependence and this insatiable appetite that we have, and this belief that the way the system is designed, we individually sometimes are all powerful enough to blow doors off of it and make room for my beautiful Blackness, your queerness, your transness, your disability. Like, think about it, people, like for a second. We're talking about something that is structured 408 years if we just start in the late 1700s. It is not enough space to hold your liberation inside of that institution. So we have to understand that the way that we're threading in this pattern, are we threading along the pattern of the oppressor? Because I think the answer is yes. If everybody said, I am so confused and afraid, then we have to look at how do we take what's embroidered and know that what we're doing is just not working and it's making us sick and fucking tired. And the only way that I can be replenished is if I build critical connections that don't come with a paycheck, that don't come with an accolade, where I don't get to declare myself an organizer, an abolitionist. Only thing I get to do in these spaces is not learn how to do stuff, but I learn how to be something else. And I take that learning how to be free, I take that learning how to be free and I bring it into my work in that institution, because my kids still got to eat, my bills still got to be paid. And the biggest fucked upness of it all is that my security is attached to an institution that doesn't want to do anything but annihilate people like me. And I still clock in 15 minutes earlier. Are y'all following what I'm saying here? Get your fucking bag. But you gotta have people who can help you understand what freedom means, so you will not always feel fatigued and ashamed and I'm complicit and I know my white privilege and all of this. We're in a press right now. We're in what some will call our after times, right? We all got one. Your parents had one, your grandparents had one, right? Their grandparents had one. I know it's 2 minutes. I saw the paper slide. Oh, time is up. Oh, I read me. So me, it is what I read. Time, yeah, I get it. So all I'm saying is that truly the thing is, take what you think you know and bring that into a different container and let those people fucking love on you. And that's the new fabric that I think we have to build. Not to get love legislated or mandated, but to do things that you say you would do besides not getting locked up, my man, and sacrifice and endure. Because in this press, we got a choice: liberation or to continue to be hung up in this cage.
chance to, if you got 2
You know, I don't go like Corey. Was the question what makes me tired?
No, how we get out of that?
You can say whatever you want to say.
Well, listen, I just wanna, yeah, well, it's really quick. Honestly, white people make me tired. Because I have to keep saying the same thing over and over, and you continue doing the same thing over and over, while also telling me that you want to be in community with me, you're my ally, you're my this, you're my that, and it's exhausting. The mental trampoline, the gaslighting, I don't even know if you know you're doing it, but it's exhausting. It really is. I really, and I don't say this to be harmful to white people. I'm not trying to attack people, anyone. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't start owning who we truly are versus who we see. Listen, I look in the mirror. Before I look in the mirror, I see a skinny girl. But when I get to the mirror, I see a thick girl, right? So what I'm saying is the mirror is giving me my reality. Look in the mirror and get your reality. Because many of you are not who you say you are. You are not operating in a way that is conducive to change. You are not operating in a way that says you care about humanity. You are not operating in a way that says you care about the future. Look in the mirror and don't lie to yourself. Yeah, there's time I look in there and go, yeah, I lost 20 pounds. I know it's a lie, but I just tell myself that. But don't look in the mirror and lie to yourself like I do sometimes. Right? Because this is what I'm lying about doesn't harm anybody, right? I'm making a joke about it. I don't mind being overweight. I'm a little overweight. I'm cute though. But but the point is, be honest with who you are. Growing pain. Pain comes with growth sometimes. It comes with growth with pain because it comes with facing reality. And I'm just going to ask everybody today to make a commitment, not to do anything for me, not to do anything for April, to do something for yourself, because one snowflake does not create an avalanche. When you start working on yourself as an individual, we can start making collective change.
Let's thank our panel, y'all.